Each year, tens of thousands of companies apply to participate in the Y Combinator Startup Accelerator. A lucky few get to actually come and interview for $500,000 of funding. If you are one of those lucky few, let's talk about how you can nail the infamous YC interview. Hey everybody, my name is Ish. I'm the founder and CEO of Virtually, and I went through YC in the summer 2020 batch. Before ultimately getting into YC, I had actually applied 6 times. I got about 4 offers to interview. I actually showed up to 2 of those and then finally got admitted on May 7th, 2020. If you've heard anything about the YC interview, you know how intense it is. Specifically the fact that it's only 10 minutes long and you're bombarded with questions left and right. It's pretty intense, to say the least. Let's start by talking about the format of the YC interview. The interview is 10 minutes long and you will be speaking to 2 to 3 YC partners who will be bombarding you with questions left and right about your business. About half the interview will be general company questions, and the other half will be questions very specific to your business. The way it used to work was that if you got selected for a YC interview, you would actually get to fly out to Mountain View. YC would pay for the entire trip, and you'd get to actually interview in person. Obviously, with the pandemic, they've done away with that, and now interviews are completely virtual. Trust me, as somebody who's done both an in-person and remote interview, remote is better. When it comes down to it, flying potentially halfway across the world for a 10-minute interview is a little bit of an overkill, and it can be really stressful and demoralizing if it turns out you didn't get it. Even better, if you're doing the interview remote, you can do it from the comfort of your own home, you can have your notes up. It's just a generally more relaxed environment. Now let's discuss my 6 best tips for nailing your YC interview. Tip number 1, nail your one-liner. The start of your pitch will always begin with a partner asking you, what are you building? Now is the time to mention the one-liner that you brought up in your application. If this one-liner is not absolutely clear, the rest of your pitch is doomed. Tip number 2, treat the interview like a conversation, not a pitch. Seriously, I can't stress this point enough. Too many people go in there and trying to pitch their strongest ideas, but that's not the purpose of the interview. YC interviews is specifically designed to extract as much information about your business in a short period of time. And the only way partners can do this and learn about you and your company is if you follow the flow of the conversation. Tip number 3 is don't memorize your responses to different questions. Just remember high-level bullet points. Too many people go into the YC interview having memorized the responses to hundreds of questions. The problem is YC partners are prepared for this and will throw you a curveball. And if one of those questions is one that you hadn't prepared for, you're going to panic and you're not going to know what to do. Yes, over-preparing is a thing. You don't want to be too rigid during the interview. You're going to want to be able to be adaptive to asking questions that are going to naturally come up in a conversation. My big breakthrough for this was realizing that of all the hundreds of questions that partners can ask, there are really 4 main ones that you have to remember. What are you building? Why are you building this? How big is this market? And what unique insight do you have? Most questions you're going to get in the first half of the interview is just going to be a different version of this exact question. Tip number 4 is to be concise. Don't blabber on about each response. This is a really common mistake that founders make. If you get too carried away with the weeds, YC partners can just drill and take up the entire time of the interview. You don't want that to happen. Instead, once you have a response for your question, say it, no more, no less, and then just move on. That answer can even be, I don't know. That's okay. Tip number 5, exert confidence. I know it is a stressful situation, but the founders who get into YC are the ones who generally don't need YC. You're building an awesome company. Be excited about what you're building and exert that within the interview. And my last and final tip is to not over-prepare. Like I've said, if you prepare too much for individual responses to questions or do too many mock interviews, You're just going to be caught off guard when you see something that you didn't expect. And the YC partners are really good at throwing curveballs. A lot of YC founders are more than willing to help with YC interviews. All you got to do is search Twitter right around the time that it's application/interview season and set up some time. But again, don't do too many. 5 to 7 is generally a good number. The best thing that's going to help you land a spot into YC is working on your business, not on your YC pitch. So remember that if you don't get in, it's not the end of the world. I applied 6 times before I got in. It takes a few tries, but if you're persistent, I'm confident you can do it too. That's all I've got for today. I'm going to leave some resources in the description. If you found this video helpful, like and subscribe. With that, this is Ish, signing off.